Heavy is finally going to be able to get his revenge after being the punching bag of this series. Unfortunately, he's still going to have to be his own punching bag, because the Warrior Spirit and the Fist of Steel just have the most vulnerabilities. Hey, I didn't make the balance rules, I didn't balance these weapons. I'm just using them to find what the highest and the lowest possible damage each class can do is. And unfortunately, that means we do have to bully Heavy in every video, including his own, but it is what it is. And I'll say this right up front, that this is probably going to be the least eventful video in the series. Heavy does have the highest possible damage output of any class in the game, but it doesn't come from high burst damage, that's not his thing. But we'll try to find some ways to make this interesting. We'll look at some other stuff, like, I don't know, did you know it's possible for Heavy to reach the run speed cap? With the gloves of running urgently, a speed boost, and the agility power-up, Heavy will run at 520 hammer units a second, which is the fastest run speed you could have. This means that in that very specific scenario, Heavy is technically capable of running as fast as a Babyface's Blaster Scout with full boost. I was briefly considering making a video about how fast each class can run, but then I quickly found out that they could all reach the speed cap. So it's not exactly the best video topic, but it's still a fun thing to look at. Look at him go, look how fast he is. Also, weirdly, the agility power-up does let you bypass the Buffalo Stakes plus 35% speed cap, but it still does slow you down before applying the power-up speed. If you have no idea what speed cap I'm talking about, I did go over this in the Heavy Bugs video. Anyway, for damage, we'll start with melee and work our way over to primaries. Just like the shovel, the fire axe, and the bottle that came before it, the Heavy's fists have a max damage of 390 with a crit against the Fist of Steel Heavy. This damage also applies to the Killing Gloves of Boxing, the Gloves of Running Urgently, and the Fists of Steel themselves. All of those weapons also have a minimum damage of 17. The Eviction Notice, with its 60% damage penalty, has a maximum damage of 156, with a minimum of just 7. And the Holiday Punch is the only melee weapon that does more damage with the Strength and Mini-Crits combo than it does with a full crit, because crits from the Holiday Punch deal 0 damage. So its maximum damage is 351, and its minimum with a crit is, of course, 0. But now, after beating up on it for 4 videos, the Warrior Spirit finally gets its time to shine. With its 30% damage bonus, it has the highest regular base damage of any melee weapon, allowing it to deal a maximum of 507 damage. Which, I mean, that's good, but we have already seen melee weapons that did more than that. The Equalizer, the Half Zatoichi, the Extinguisher, the Ulpool Caber, and even the Third Degree can all deal more damage in a single hit, despite not having regular damage bonuses as high as the Warrior Spirit's. But the Warrior Spirit does probably have the highest minimum damage of any melee weapon, with 22. So that's something. Consolation prize, I guess. Heavy only has one unique damage dealing secondary that we haven't seen before, which is the Family Business. And it deals less damage overall than both the Shotgun and the Panic Attack. But as a super quick recap, the Shotgun has a max of 315 and a minimum of nothing, and the Panic Attack has a max of 377, also with a minimum of nothing. But the Family Business's max damage is only 267, which is over 100 less than the Panic Attacks, and is not enough to even kill the Heavy. Its minimum damage is, you guessed it, 1! No, I'm just kidding, it's also 0. But when your primary weapon has the highest possible damage output of any weapon in the game, yeah, who needs those melees and secondaries? They're useless. Except for here, because the shotgun will actually have a higher damage in a single shot than the minigun, but we'll get to that. The minigun has a base damage of only 9, but fires 4 pellets per shot and has 150% ramp up, making its highest normal damage that it can deal in a single shot 54. And that would be at the absolute closest range, and after the initial 1 second damage ramp up after spinning up is gone. Cause if you've just spun up, then the damage can be as low as half of that. I'm still not sure why they thought that extra ramp up needed to exist, but for the max damage of each minigun, you can just assume that they've already been spun up for over a second. And if that minigun has been spun up for over a second, and that Heavy has the strength power up and mini crits while shooting a Warrior Spirit Heavy at close range, then the minigun and the Tomislav can deal 189 damage in a single shot. And yeah, on its own, a single shot is pretty underwhelming, but it does only take 2 of those to kill that Heavy, and it only takes 1/5 of a second to fire those 2 shots. So that is still pretty good, though we will be looking at the overall damage per second a little bit later. And just to get this out of the way first, every single minigun has a minimum damage of 0. Against the Fist of Steel Heavy, with the Resistance power-up, the Battalion's backup effect, and the Vaccinator Uber from long range, every single one of Heavy's primaries will deal no damage. Even the Heater's firing can deal no damage against a Danger Shield Sniper with the same effects. But for the max, the Natasha does 142, the Brass Beast 226, and the Huo-Long Heater is slightly more complicated. In order to get the highest damage for the Heater, we'll need the Warrior Spirit Heavy to be on fire. The Huo-Long heater deals 25% more damage to burning targets off of a 10% damage penalty, so if that target's on fire, it'll deal 12.5% more damage. But you can hit with the fire ring and your own afterburn at the same time as your bullets for a maximum damage of 258, which is actually more than the Brass Beast. But in terms of DPS, the Brass Beast actually still has it beat. Every single minigun, except for the Tomislav, can fire 9, almost 10, but still technically 9 times a second. So all we would really need to do to figure out the minigun's highest DPS would be to multiply the highest single shot damage by 9. With the minigun, it would be 189 damage times 9 for 1,701 damage per second. And because the firing on the heater only comes out every half a second, that would technically give the highest DPS to the Brass Beast with 2,034 damage per second. So if you ever find yourself up against a 2,034 health Warrior Spirit Heavy, you'll know that you could kill him in exactly 1 second with the Brass Beast. Surely someday that information will come in handy. Yeah, don't forget it. Oh, and you'll also basically have to be pinning that heavy up against the wall because the miniguns do a lot of knockback when they're dealing that much damage. But wait! If we're looking to find Heavy's highest damage per second, we can use another power-up. And I don't mean power-up stacking, because that's not a thing and it doesn't work that way. But while strength and mini-crits might be the best for big bursts of damage, the haste power-up will double your firing speed. That alone effectively doubles Heavy's potential DPS, but it also means you can use full crits instead of mini-crits. With crits, the Brass Beast can deal up to 168 damage per hit against a Warrior Spirit Heavy. Multiply that by 18 shots per second, and you get a maximum DPS of 3,024. Even if you completely take the Warrior Spirit out of the equation, you still get a maximum DPS of 2,333. And with that, in something like Man vs. Machine, you could just shred through everything. Even tanks, which have a 75% minigun resistance, still get completely destroyed by it. The haste power-up even doubles your ammo too, so it's like perfect for Man vs. Machine. So it's like a single hit from the minigun was always going to be somewhat unimpressive. But everybody expected that. That's not what the minigun's about. Soldier, Delman, and even Pyro in some ways, might have a higher maximum damage in terms of big bursts, but in terms of a sustainable, consistently high damage output that involves no reloading whatsoever, a crit-boosted Brass Beast Heavy with the haste power-up is about as powerful as you could get. I mean, look how fast it just shreds through these 16 Warrior Spirit Heavies. It cuts through them like a sharp thing through a soft thing. But you want to know what Heavy's highest damage in a single hit actually is? It's just the taunt kill. Not a big surprise. And just like the Scout's Sandman taunt, despite coming from a melee weapon, it's actually considered bullet damage, which means for the max we have to use the Warrior Spirit instead of the Fist of Steel, which does reduce its potential. So, with strength and mini-crits against a Warrior Spirit Heavy, the Showdown Taunt can deal Heavy's highest maximum damage, which is 1,755, which is exactly what Scout's was. Hey, I warned you at the beginning of this video that it wasn't going to be the most exciting. This taunt can't even be used to kill multiple targets at once like Soldier and Pyros, so 1,755 is what you get. It's not bad, it's just kind of underwhelming. As was most of what we discovered in this video. But Heavy does have the unique trait of having the most weapons that can deal 0 damage. All of his primary weapons, all of his secondaries, and one of his melees are technically capable of dealing no damage. Impress your friends and party guests, and depress Heavy mains with this fun fact. But that was the Heavy damage video, and that means that Engineer is up next. And I'm actually really excited to do that one. I think that one's gonna be a lot of fun. There's some really interesting things you can do with Engineer. So I will try to make the Engineer follow-up video relatively soon. But yeah, thanks for watching, and of course the special thanks to my patrons like Varric, Captain Forex, Egox, Dex, Probably Vinegar, Caponicus, Kelso the Pirate, Pilsman's Fox, Kybrid96, Scout with a Name, Glump, Salt God, Lavi, Taupe, Time Consuming, Steel Frog, and Nolan46. Alright, okay. Peace out, dogs.